For now, COVID-19 isn't slowing down football, but there's no doubt this season's going to look different than any other. Good evening, and thanks for joining us at 7:30. I'm Megan Schiller. It's the time of the year Steelers Nation lives for. But how will the pandemic affect the 2020 season? And what role will fans play in a town that loves their sports teams? We're going to bring in the GOAT, Sports Director Bob Pompeani, joining us tonight. Thanks so much, Bob.
GOAT.
The GOAT.
That's
greatest of all time.
Big time pressure here to deliver for you, Megan. Thanks. Nice to be with you.
Of course. So, Pom, do you think the players are going to feel different when they step out onto the field this time?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've seen that in other sports so far, Megan, and this will be no different. They're used to energy from fans in the stands, big time 12th man advantages that you see around the NFL. But I think what we've seen around sports so far, and the NFL will certainly learn from this, is that you can create an atmosphere even though you don't have fans. I think the NHL has done a good job of that in their so-called bubble. They pipe in noise and a little bit of crowd, and you feel like you're actually witnessing a game with spectators, even though they're not there. The NBA has done it very well, and I think baseball is doing it as best they can too. But this is different because the stadiums are so big, and you're going to try to recreate an atmosphere that won't be available because the stands will be empty, at least to start the season, although some places will have fans. So it depends on where you are, what state you live in. But for this game on Monday night for the Steelers, there will be no fans. And so the NFL has decided that they will pipe in noise, but as opposed to having people from their own teams, the home teams, put those noise elements in, you're going to have people from the NFL who are there. And they will keep, the decibel levels hopefully the same throughout the course of the entire season. No fans, and a lot of these fans are going to be, missing opportunities to socialize. And I think that's the biggest loss in this, Megan. You're not going to have these tailgates, these face-to-face opportunities to talk about football and do the things that people love to do. But if you're watching on television, it's never a bad way to watch any sport because they make that experience so good.
You have a chance to actually talk to some of the Steelers. What are the players saying about this?
Well, again, it's uncharted territory for them. They're not used to going through this. I think this whole training camp experience was different. The fact that there's Zoom internets and nobody can see anyone really face-to-face in terms of media makes that a little different. But they've gotten through it. I think the biggest concern that they have here is, picking up this virus. They've done a good job with testing. I saw the numbers the other day. In the last round of testing, over 44,000, only 2 positive tests. The NHL has gone 6 weeks with no positive tests. They understand what they're dealing with, and they've got to be on alert. I think everyone has a responsibility here. As Mike Tomlin said, one fail, all fail. So it's a different experience, but when the games start, and they will tonight because the Kansas City Chiefs will begin their defense against Houston, you're going to see them play football. There's been a lot of testing, so there should be no fear that there's something out there for them to catch as far as this virus is concerned, and I think you'll see hopefully good football. Maybe sloppy, Megan, because we haven't seen guys play. There have been no preseason games. There's no physical contact. You may also see more soft tissue injuries.
What do you think will happen if a Steeler does test positive?
Well, I think the strategy is this. They're going to, quickly quarantine that person, do the contact tracing that they have to do. But the thing about football, Megan, is it's one game a week. So if you do quarantine, you can likely miss just one game because it could be 14 days before the next game is played. They just got to make sure they contain any outbreaks. And I think that's the biggest concern that the league has, that each individual team has. But again, it comes back to making sure each player is responsible. At first in baseball, we did not see that. There were a lot of outbreaks. In the last 4 weeks, we haven't seen virtually none of that. So I think everyone knows what's at stake here, and they need to make sure they're responsible. And if they are, I think you can get through this entire season.
You bring up high school football. Tomorrow is the start of high school football in our region. While the governor has lifted the no spectator rule, the 250-person gathering limit still in play. And now some districts finding ways to bring the game day experience to the fans. For example, at NA, North Allegheny, the athletic director telling us between the players, the band members, and staff, they reached that limit quickly. So they decided to bring the game to the families with 4 cameras, instant replay, graphics, coaching interviews, and of course the band. The whole thing's going to be live streamed for free, and it doesn't end with football. They're doing it for every single fall sport at the district. Pom, do you think that that's going to make up for the folks who can't be there live?
Well, it will help, certainly. And some school districts just can't afford to do that. So that's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage because I still think the game day experience, especially for those who are close to these players, family members, friends, they want to see them in person. And that's why originally that rule was changed by the governor, and then he moved it up to in person up to 250. And I think they're accommodating fans who are close to each of these players, whether it's family or friends. But to me, they could do more, Megan. I'm of the belief you could fit more people in there. Stadiums are big enough to distance people properly as long as they wear masks and do what they're supposed to do. I believe they can, bring in more people than 250. But as far as what you just described at NA, that's a big advantage that a lot of these school districts just do not have. And so I think the craving of being there in person is still going to be big.
Yeah, Pomp, they said $30,000 some dollars, but meanwhile McKeesport says that they're going to live stream their games using an outside company, but it's only going to be for the people who aren't ticketed to enter. So each football player, band member, cheerleader will receive 2 tickets for a family to attend, and then the school has marked off seating for social distancing, and you'll also be required to wear a mask inside the stadium. But if it all works, it's going to take teamwork, not just from the players. Pomp, what are you hearing from the high school athletic directors that are really having to juggle a lot right now?
Well, there's a lot on their plate, there's no question, and they're trying to do what's right. They're aware of the virus, and they're certainly aware that this virus can be spread quickly, and their concern goes beyond not just players. Yes, they're concerned about players, but also family members who are older, and I think that is the thing that they're trying to avoid mostly at this point. But they're going to do their best. Players want to play. I've talked to a number of kids who are disappointed that at first they were talking about not playing. Now they are playing. They want to continue to play. And again, I think kids are going to learn in a hard way real quick. You got to be responsible. And that means socially doing some of the things that you want to do, especially as high schoolers or college players, you're not going to be able to do, at least for the good of the game. And I think that's where we are right now. But those athletic directors are very, very serious about making sure everyone's safe first and foremost.
All right, Pomp, thanks so much for talking all things football with us. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure, Megan. Always good to be with you.